Dr. Dummett, I invite you to make an opening statement of up to 5 minutes.
Thanks so much. I should say I'm a historian of Canadian politics, so this is a great honor. I'm very pleased to be here, but I'm not here to speak about the history of Canadian politics, sadly. I am here to speak about a survey I did with a data analyst from Concordia University about university professors, their political opinions, their attitudes towards academic freedom, and towards diversity. And the news I want to bring you, and this has been slightly preempted by the other witnesses, is that federal funding agencies, federal research agencies, the Canada Research Program, are at the moment ignoring the single biggest and most egregious diversity problem in higher education, and that is viewpoint diversity. This may seem like a partisan statement, and I would understand if you thought it was so, but it's just simply an accurate description of reality. The survey showed that, in our survey, Eric Hoffman found slightly different things. 76% of professors we surveyed voted for either the Liberal Party or the NDP. Only 7.6% voted for Conservatives. We asked them, maybe party identification is not the only thing you want to think about. We asked them how they would identify politically on the left or right spectrum, and 88% identified as left-leaning. So this is, of course, pretty significantly different than the rest of the population and of a category of a magnitude which is really unlike any other kind of diversity concerns that higher education is currently concerned about. Now, it might be tempting to dismiss this as a concern only for conservatives. Again, I would understand if some would think that would be the case. And certainly there are consequences for conservatives. They reported in our survey high rates of self-censorship, finding the workplace to be a hostile workplace, and a whole host of problems. I should say we also found that centrist, sometimes even left-leaning scholars, particularly feminist scholars who thought about the importance of biological sex as a really important category, also reported really great concerns about political discrimination. So it's not just a right-left concern, but it is, I want to suggest to you, not a partisan concern. It's a concern that matters towards the purpose of higher education as a truth-seeking and truth-validating research enterprise. I think that the lack of viewpoint diversity significantly damages the purpose of higher education, which I greatly support. How does it do this in practice? Well, first of all, it just reduces the effectiveness of peer review. John Stuart Mill said, "He who knows only his own side of the case knows very little." Peer review is supposed to give you the best criticisms by the most knowledgeable people who are going to be most critical of your work. You don't have to change your mind just because you face that criticism, but you will know your side and be much more robust by knowing that. The fact is that a university higher education sector which is so devoid of divergent opinions prevents this from happening. There are other concerns. Self-censorship as well makes this even worse. So the small numbers of conservatives and academics who are there reported to us that almost half of them were too frightened to have their colleagues even know their politics. Right? So the ability of them to actually effectively do peer review, especially in the social sciences and humanities, is greatly diminished. This leads to what some social psychologists call reputational cascades. And this is a process whereby information that is untrue or at least partial or inaccurate can be accepted in certain groups as accurate if those who have alternate viewpoints don't speak up and aren't able to speak up. Right? So this is a major concern. It also brings us a problem. That is, as they say, an institution that lacks viewpoint diversity in the way that higher education does also leads to the possibility of group polarization. Group polarization is the really well-known phenomena whereby in groups, small or large, where many people actually already think alike, the absence of divergent opinions makes everyone's individual opinion, which may be more moderate, after processes of discussion, assessment, even more radical at the end because they're not faced opinions and corrective discussions. So it's a serious concern. Ironically, the current EDI policies in the Tri-Council agencies and in the Canada Research Program might actually be making it worse. The extent to which diversity statements are required, these act as a kind of political statements. I did hear Professor Kerr talking about the importance of diversity and having different perspectives in the research, and I fundamentally agree with what he was saying. But diversity statements ask for certain kinds of understanding diversity, and certain politicized ways of understanding diversity. It's not about eliminating discrimination. It's about having a very politically partisan idea of what EDI means. And if you don't have those particular kinds of terms in your assessment, then it's very possible that you'll be rated lower and weeded out. So it's either you either have to lie on your assessment or risk not getting funding. What's more, the other problem is that often programs that are meant to attract equity-deserving groups or underrepresented groups come paired not just with a desire to improve those groups, but they come paired. And I'm not sure how much this reaches this level, paired with certain kinds of other qualifications. So things like a position or funding might be advertised for someone who has a commitment to, say, decolonization or anti-racist pedagogy. I've seen these in ads for a whole bunch of things.
That's over our time, but you can elaborate in the question period.